Well, Ken, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Oh, this is great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So you spend the summers in Idaho, I hear.
I do. I love it up there. It's very hot in Arizona.
It is.
And it gives a break for the, from the heat and also for my mind, just to try to take a little bit of time off.
How much time do you take off and kind of why do you do it?
Well, I think
because you're a busy guy.
Yeah. Well, when I was younger, I used to work a lot, like a lot of people do, and I realized that every time I left on vacation, even a week or two or whatever, it would take a few days, but all of a sudden you start to think a little more clearer, and just things get a little bit easier, and I would always bring back really new ideas to the company. And so my partner, we had a little joke. He's like, okay, what's new now? Like when I would come back from vacation, and because you never really shut it off. But I feel like sometimes you filling your head with so much stuff every day, emails and conversations and letters and whatever, that you never really take a break and work on the business. And so I usually take. This year I took almost 3 months off.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with entrepreneurs like us is that we can always achieve more if we work harder.
Yeah.
And so the temptation is that so even if we work for ourselves, we just work harder and harder, and then we lose that life balance. I mean, how do you achieve that balance between marriage, life, family, and your business?
It's the hardest thing ever, actually. So also when I go somewhere and taking time off, let's say, I'm not really shut down from the world, as you are these days anywhere. So my kids, they'll be asleep. I get up still at 5 or 6, and I crank out 3-4 hours of work every single morning, but then I shut it down and I'm present with them all day. So that's the difference. So I am working, I am on the phones, but anything and everything needs to be scheduled in the mornings. And I wanted the goal was to be fully present and have a great relationship with my family. So that was the intent. But also, to take time away from the company and the business.
So you have to be very intentional about this.
Yeah, you do. I actually bought a house in Idaho and moved to it. So,
Partly because of this, or maybe because of it?
Maybe all kind of connected to it. Yeah, I think it's 3-hour flight away, and there's you're intentionally moving, and you kind of have to think about how you're going to run the business, because still it doesn't go away, and there's still things that happen.
So you are thinking business, but you detach yourself from kind of the day-to-day stuff.
Yes, that's right, and it's wonderful because it doesn't shut down. Things still come in, but Robert Kiyosaki has this saying that he says, which is space allows. And what it basically means is when you create space in whatever you're doing, new things come in. But when you're fully engaged and your mind's full of chatter all the time, it's harder.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, talk about a time when because you used to be an employee at one point, right?
Yeah.
And then you talk about the transition from that to kind of being your own boss. Like, what was that like for you? Was that what were some of the challenges you went through?
Well, the nice thing about being an employee is you don't know any better, right? So, I mean, I was an employee in high school, and then during college I worked. I had 3 jobs in college, and while going there, and I was a wrestler. I was on a wrestling scholarship, so I was busy in college, and then I went right into work somewhere after that. And so, I think that the entrepreneur piece for me wasn't clear. So the employee part was super easy. I mean, everything's kind of served up for you, and you get a paycheck, and as long as you come in on time, tell the truth, and do what you say, you're going to be fine generally. So, the entrepreneur part for me was the hardest leap. Going from somebody giving me money in a paycheck, in the form of a paycheck, to going out on my own and relying on just myself.
What was that first business that you did and at what point did you make that transition?
Well, what I did was I went very slowly. I did a lot of the things that a lot of your listeners probably did. Is I started with one place and then had a second place and had a second place
on the side
or third place. Yeah. So I was still working, and I had savings or whatever, and I used that money to buy my first rental place, which barely cash flowed, but it did. And I didn't know any of the rich dad stuff or any of these things at that time. I just knew. Because my very first job was in property management. And so I understood rents and expenses and cash flow, and you either sent a check to an owner or you didn't. And if you didn't, a lot of times there was hell to pay, right? There were reasons. And so I started doing that. And I think once I started buying individual places, it gave me kind of the comfort level to be able to do it on my own. I had a whole new network of people, from realtors to contractors to lenders and things like that, as you do, kind of outside of what I was doing, because mine was the big apartment complexes. And so when I actually made that switch, it was basically going from small rentals to big ones.
Now, I heard you say that your goal at the time was to be your own boss. But you did not necessarily equate that with financial freedom. Were the two things different? And if so, what is your definition of financial freedom?
Well, it's interesting. Like honestly, at that point, I was in my early 20s, and you don't really have a lot of expenses. Let's just face it. And you're pretty mobile. You know what I mean? Maybe you have a car expense, you have some living expenses, and you have rent maybe or a mortgage, but generally not too much. And so I was just trying to solve to that. What I was making was a lot more, but I was just trying to solve to something that would cover my monthly expenses so that I didn't have to dip into my savings. So essentially, that was it. So it was very, very simple, And so for me, that was financial freedom. And actually, it kind of is, when you have enough rental income or income from a business to provide, you cover your expenses, that's kind of financial freedom. The problem is that your expenses get bigger and bigger over time, right?
Yeah.
I want more things. I want to, have, a bigger house or move here or move there or whatever. And so, start a family and, things start becoming bigger on the expense side. So I had to have a business that was scalable.
Right. Which it was in real estate as well.
Yeah, which I was lucky.
Now, so how did your definition of success change over the years, right? Because for me, it changes. Like 10 years ago, I wanted something, and then all of a sudden, you're like, wow, that wasn't maybe a mature way of thinking. And how was that for you?
I don't think we're unusual there, though. Like, I think, honestly, when I was in college, my definition of success was getting a job. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, and I think it changes, and then it's finding, a relationship, and maybe it's finding a good job, or maybe it's finding something that you really enjoy, because that could be different. You can have a job that you don't enjoy and a job that you do enjoy. And so there's all kinds of things in there that, and then I think at some point, maybe in my 30s, it turned more to money. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, I had this $1 million number in my head, I want to be a millionaire. Don't know why, but, maybe something I read, but at the time. And so that was kind of my first financial goal. And I thought at the time that was success, but now I look back and I see that it really wasn't. I mean, it was successful. It was a great life event, but, I think now I feel like it's relationships and my family and my kids and those kinds of things. So that's where I'm focused now is, building those and keeping those relationships.
So how did you come to this realization? Because some never do, really. They just keep count of their money.
Yeah. Well, I think that I always wanted. It wasn't an epiphany for me. It was when I had my kids. I knew that I wanted to have an amazing relationship with them. And so I sought out a mentor. His name was Charlie Dunlap, and he had 5 kids. And all of the kids wanted to be with him. And he was about 60 years old. And I'm like, okay, I want a relationship like that guy has with his kids. And so I started to meet with him every month. And we met for almost 10 years. And, just for an hour, for lunch, for here, and we did it all for free. But I looked at somebody that I admired in what I wanted, and then I made it a priority. And he helped me more than anybody on my relationship with my family and what's important. He was a very successful person with his family and also financially. And so I sought him out, and he agreed. So he shaped the way I think a lot.
That's amazing that you actually focused on that. Not a lot of people do, and I'll get a coach for something to make more money with something, but the idea of getting a coach over that time period to focus on your family, that's amazing. And most people have to go through some kind of trauma or death or something before they go, oh my gosh, I got to focus on my relationships. And with you, for some reason, that was not like that.
Not sure why. I had a great relationship with my parents. They were married 60 years. Maybe that was part of it. I speak to my siblings all the time. I just talked to my brother an hour ago. And so those are just really important for me. I think they're the most important thing, because at the end of the day, maybe what happened was one of the things, I started doing all my estate planning and all the trusts and all the things that you have to do when you start moving along in financially. And I remember reading an article about the top regrets of
dying.
Yeah, for dying, as from hospice, I think it was.
That's right. Ben,
yeah. So somebody wrote, and it was money and working and all that. It wasn't even on the list, right? It was all about family and relationships, and it was consistent. It was a lot of interviews that they had done to get to that point, and so again, all ego aside, you're like, okay, well, this is good information. This is probably the way it's going to be for me, and it seems to be that way for everybody. Why would I be any different? So I need to refocus my priorities.
So this is interesting, because most people don't become aware of something until some trauma happens, either to themselves or others, and they go, oh my gosh, they're all of a sudden they wake up. So don't you have to develop certain kind of awareness? Like, you see this other person having this relationship with their kids, most people just take that for granted, or they don't even notice it. How do you try to develop that awareness for you?
Well, I think it first started with my employees here. I think when I first started, I was hiring accountants and property managers and things like that, maintenance people, and I didn't really give I don't think I gave the respect that I could have or should have when I was a young man about what they do for the company. In other words, it was more, let's find some people, let's staff it, let's move to the next thing. You know what I mean? It was, and so, and then I realized at some point that I could create a lot better environment for my employees, and so that's when I started digging into the personal development stuff. And I was already doing a lot of it, but I had never taken what I had learned and given it back to them. And so we started doing 2-day employee seminars for our staff. We would study a book, and and then we would get into personal development. We'd bring in speakers just like you would attend or I would attend.
That's amazing.
And I started doing them for free, of course, because a lot of people can't afford that stuff. Some of those personal development seminars can be a lot. And so I think that it was a combination of that. It's one thing to learn it, and it's another thing to teach it.
You're right.
And so, and then one of the books I studied, several books. One is called Awareness by DeMello. Another one is called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
That's a great book.
And then The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So let's say all three of those, they kind of say a lot of the same stuff. Mm-hmm. But basically, it just talks about being present, aware, and in the moment right now and a lot of people, I think, sometimes are stuck in the past, a lot of times, and then that's in their head while they have precepts or preconceived notions of, things. And then in other cases, a lot of people are stuck in the future, where we're going to go, where we're going to be, like plan. There's nothing wrong with planning, but so I think both of them talk about being aware and being present, and it's hard to do.
Really hard to do.
Really, really super hard to do. And so those kinds of things, I think, brought me to, what you just said. The question is, I became more present with my kids. I became more present with my employees. I became more present with scenarios and situations that I'm presented with, whether it's a phone call or a conversation with my assistant or anybody, And I think that there's nothing more valuable that you can give other than your time. And if I'm sitting here talking to you and I'm out here thinking something else, I'm not fully present with you, and I'm not giving you all of me. You know what I mean? So it was actually quite simple. You know what I mean? The concept of it is actually to take things away. Mm-hmm. That's actually all it is.
Well, simple but hard to do.
Yeah, very hard.
I mean, Robert Kiyosaki talks about this be, do, have idea.
Yeah.
Right? And I, for the long, and I'm starting to get it now, but I was always under the belief it's do. If I do a bunch of stuff, then I have or get a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's this be in front of it. And I used to kind of discount the whole mindset thing. It's like this frou-frou thing. I just got to work hard enough and I'm smart and I can do it. And for you, why is that be part so important?
Well, I think most people focus on the have. I mean, right now, that's where my kids are. I mean, I was just with my son 2 days ago, University of Arizona, and they're like, I want this car, I want that. So I don't think they're any different than anybody. I want this, I want a job, I want. And so a lot of times they focus on the have. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's a part of the process. And you got to have dreams and goals and all those kinds of things. But I think the be part is the most important part, because I think the minute you work on your inside, then the outside just changes. You know what I mean? You automatically get what you want on the outside.
It's just so hard because you're always busy. There's
You
always
are.
some
Yeah.
fire to put out.
Always. Yeah. So I think that's basically what be, do, have means to me is, and we teach that to the employees in the company too, is the be part is, I think, the most important part. If we can teach something to somebody and they can take it back and have a better family relationship, or save their marriage, or maybe call a brother or sister or a father or mother that they haven't called before, I think that's a win. And so those are all things. The reason people don't have good relationships generally is because of belief systems or something that they have inside of there, and they're stuck. You know what I mean?
Well, and maybe we don't invest the time in our employees. We think they have their job to do, and how much productivity can I get out of them, not realizing if I actually help them become a better person, they help me in turn as well.
Right. Right. So I had the old model where we'd hold up the spreadsheets and talk about IRRs and returns and all that kind of stuff, and those were super boring. And once we went into personal development stuff, it changed our company. Our turnover last year was, I think, 4%. We were awarded, I think, 9th in the country out of 50,000 property management and real estate companies, best company in the country. And then, of course, we're a top company in Arizona. And I'm still the same guy. We're still doing the exact same business we were 10 years ago. The only difference is that we're focusing on our people and trying to help them be more aware, which can help them in life, not just financially. Usually it's hand in hand, you know what I mean? But and that's all I can do. And it seems to be, it's worked for me, I feel like, and if we can help some of the people that work for us, and even better.
It's a great mission and a lesson for me. You said something about employees having limited beliefs. I think we all have limiting beliefs.
As we all grow up, we come from wherever we come from. My parents didn't come from any kind of money. They barely finished high school. Of course, certainly they didn't go to college. And so I grew up with we can't afford it, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. And actually, in looking back, it's probably true. And so that's a belief system that my parents have. They still have it. You know what I mean? And so you got to crack through that, you know? And I was like, okay, well, if that's true, then why is my next door neighbor or this guy that I went to college with, you know what I mean? Like their belief system is a little different around money or around here. And so I think what happens, it can happen in religion. It can happen with marriage. It can happen with relationships. It can happen with all kinds of things. You know, so I think that what happens is a lot of times people, they have their belief system, whatever that is. And a lot of times it can be, like if, let's say they lost some money somewhere. Well, then they're like, okay, that's taboo. Right?
That was bad.
Right, that was bad. We'll never do that again. Or whatever it might be. Instead of, you know, that's a belief system. Those are things that happened in the past. Not that you shouldn't check those, not you shouldn't be wise, but I think that those things keep you down, you know. I do. I think that you know, having an open mind and having considering somebody else's opinion on a subject is the greatest thing that you could ever do, even if you don't agree with it when they finish. Most people don't do that. Most people are trying to, you know, put their own agenda on top of whatever it is you're trying to say. And, you know, people are talking over each other. They're thinking while the other person's talking. And, you know, it's just a complete waste of time. And usually that's a result of a belief system that they have of some sort on whatever subject that it might be. And so that's what I'm talking about. And I think you just got to crack through that, you know.
And becoming aware about that, though, that's the other thing. I mean, most people aren't aware of that. So becoming aware that this, oh my gosh, I'm behaving this way because of this belief system.
That's actually all you need. That's actually how simple it is. You know, and in the awareness book and the Untethered Soul book, it talks about being the observer.
Yes.
You know, which I think is a great, you know, it's a great way to say it, because essentially, instead of being in the middle of something, you know, if you could just be the observer and watch yourself, you know, I think that you're much further along than, you know, just in the middle of the fray. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Why am I behaving like this?
Yeah.
Why did I just get upset?
Correct. Right.
And
right.
observing your own reaction. That's
so
weird.
that happens to me all the time. That's exactly where I go too. I was like, what trigger did I have right then that made me react this way? Or why did I get angry, you know, on this? And usually, sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's unconscious. You know, the conscious ones are super easy, right? Because you can say, okay, yeah, I had a bad relationship back in college and this happened, and so therefore, you know what I mean, I'm reacting this way or whatever, let's say, for an example. But it can be around money, it can be around whatever. I have family members that grew up in church, you know, in churches that, you know, had issues. And
all churches do.
Yeah, and so they have, you know, a tainted view
church, yeah.
with regard to that, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's, you know, I'm just saying that's just how, you know, what happened. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it is what it is. And so I think that you know, there are these things that we carry based on our past experiences. Usually, another coach of mine calls it a shock of some kind. You had a shock, whatever that is. It could be a death, you know, could be a relationship breakup, could be that you got cheated on, could be that you lost money, could be that you lent somebody money and never got it back. It could be whatever. Like, you know, those are all called shocks. And so you have to work through those things, I think. And, you know, and that's essentially, I think, that once you clear your slate and you become present, it certainly helps, you know.
Get through those times.
Yeah. I think so. And then you don't have those limited beliefs like you were talking about with Grant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, well, of course I can do that.
Right. So you're a pretty successful guy. I mean, you could do a variety of things with your life and your time. You could probably just quit your job, what you're doing, and sit on the beach, you know, if you wanted to. But what makes you get up in the morning?
Well, I think what need to consider when they're working or when they're not working is what I would consider to be a sense of purpose, whatever that might be. And I don't think people consider that enough. In other words, it's true. I could walk away from this company and I could do things, but I would be unfulfilled. You know what I mean? I would be financially free. And I don't feel like I would be really contributing in any way, anywhere. So, but doesn't necessarily mean I have to do it financially. I could do it anywhere. We just got back from an orphanage in Tanzania. My son was really, I brought him, we climbed Kilimanjaro in June. We did this mission trip before. And when we got back, he didn't really say much about it. I mean, we did the orphanage, we did the climb, and then we did safari, and we came back. And then last week he said, I think I want to fly back there and work there for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Just out of the blue.
So you kind of internalized it, didn't get a reaction, but it's something.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? So
Wow.
to him, that's his sense of purpose, right? So we'll send him back there next summer to work at this orphanage for 2 weeks. And so I think that it comes to different people different ways, you know what I mean? And for him, that's it, you know what I mean? And for other people, it's other things. And so, I mean, as you know, I have good friends, Josh and Lisa Lannon, who've turned their entire business model into, helping and healing PTSD, And they bought a big ranch in Texas, and so they have a ranch. And they're solving this problem, but they're making money at the same time. You know what I mean? So you can do things that solve a purpose and make money at the same time. And so that's, I think, where it goes. It's super boring to sit on a beach, retire and sit on a beach, or travel around and just go look at stuff and spend money. In my opinion.
You got a mission. You need a mission in life.
You do. You need some kind of mission, some kind of purpose, I think.
Yeah. How important is spirituality to you?
It's important. I'm all over the map on religion itself, organized religion.
We'll do a separate show on
yeah,
that one.
But I go to Scottsdale Bible Church very often, not every week, but almost. That's it's organized religion. But I get stuff from it. I love the messages and things like that. And I think what I like spirituality, what I like to say about spirituality is that there really are no rules with spirituality, And sometimes I see those rules in religions, there's like, you know what I mean? They're like, so I am definitely spiritual, but and I go to church, but. I've bounced around from Catholic to Methodist to Lutheran to Episcopalian, and you know what I mean, and to try to figure this all out. Yeah. And I haven't figured it out.
Right. Yeah, I'm on a similar path as you are actually. Yeah. So it's very interesting that you said that. It's very important for me as well, but maybe not in the the way that I grew up with.
Yeah,
so
I love them. I love the messages.
Yeah.
I love there's so many powerful things inside the Bible, and. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's all good, you know what I mean? There's nothing bad that can come out of going to church on a Sunday, right. In my opinion. Unless you're all in and you're not thinking, you're not aware, you know what I mean?
Well, sometimes we want to be right and not actually love someone, and we see
Correct.
A lot of that.
Well, generally that happens a lot, right? Right. So yeah, that's why I like spirituality, because it literally is all about love,
yeah,
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So. Ken, this has been great, and I appreciate your time. I know that you have an offer for the listeners and the watchers, because we have these books, which are awesome. Where's the cameras here? These are awesome, right? So you're gonna give us some signed copies and stuff for the listeners. And the way that we're gonna get these books is you're gonna go to themichaelblank.com/Ken. All right, and then you're gonna enter a form and you're gonna enter a lottery. And I think you're gonna give several of these away, so you don't have just one shot of these things signed by the Ken McElroy. So themichaelblank.com/Ken. And not only do you get these books, but you get to access, he's got all these videos on kenmcElroy.com.
Yeah.
I just went in there last night, and you have hours of you talking. I mean, are you kidding me right now? You're teaching us stuff, and you're at that moment just charging $100 a year for it. And I'm like, all right, so go get this book, and then just pay the $97 so you can watch Ken teach on this stuff. I mean, he's like the best. So guys, do that right now while it's still fresh in your mind. And so anyway,
thank you.
I appreciate it. It's been a real honor.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it. The videos have been a lot of fun. It kind of came out of that book, the ABCs of Real Estate Investing, has sold 600,000 copies. It's in 20 languages. And so the amount of emails and correspondence that we get just over that book has been overwhelming. So the way for me to handle it was doing these videos. So it's been great. The videos are what people are asking. So what a better way? I was like, okay, there's no way I can email all these people and text them all back. And so let's provide a platform that we can provide real truth with real experts, and they can access on their own, and they can learn together.
Yeah, this is great. I'm glad you're doing it. I wasn't aware until recently that you were doing it. So I was like, my gosh, there's a video library with Ken McElroy teaching.
Yeah.
This is great.
It's been fun too. It's been really fun because we have a great team here. And the nice part is it's not, I certainly I have the knowledge, but what the best part is that we're able to get these questions from the people that are emailing us, and watching the videos. They're saying, hey, we want a video on this, we want a video on that. So it's been a platform that's literally been designed by the people who are actually subscribed to it. So that's been really rewarding because I can take something and say, yeah, this is a great idea, let's do this. And then we film it.
And you love to teach.
I do, yeah. So it's been a win-win for me. And again, talk about purpose. For me, this is a great way to be able to put good content out there that's not salesy. It's completely, whatever they're asking is I'm delivering, that. And we're not trying to sell them into a course or any kind of anything else, you know what I mean?
Well, you're an inspiration to me, Ken. I really appreciate it.
Thank
and
you.
I know you inspire thousands, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.